Hey everybody, welcome back to another beautiful day in northern Michigan here at Tusa Acres. So this does it. I'm tired of dealing with these doggone sprinklers. Been through a handful of other sprinklers like these. I want my garden sprinklers to cover the garden and only the garden. I want them to cover the garden when the plants get tall. I want them easy to take down for cultivating and for winterizing. And I want them easy to adjust. And I'd like them to be easy to move out of the way when I'm in and out of the garden, so I'm not tripping on the hoses and such. So I think I got an idea. I'm going to show you a little aerial footage here of what the garden looks like as is with the current setup. All right, so you can just barely see it. The water's hitting me right here. That's our sprinkler up there, the adjustable one, the newer one. And I do like them, but the problem is the hose is down here, tripping all over the hoses. And when you go in and out, you're tripping over the actual sprinklers themselves. And once the, say like these tomatoes, or those are tomatoes, once they get up, 3-4 feet tall, now these sprinklers they're gonna be hitting those. Same thing with the corn up top and everything else. So I'm planning on making little stands that, I can punch a stake in the ground, then it'll have a holder with a plate that can swivel back and forth, so I can just spin these right out of the way, walk up and down. I'll have the hoses run out to the fence line and put on S-hooks running all the way around, so the hoses are out of the way. Getting wet over here. The sprinklers can be picked up and moved easily, or actually just swiveled out of the way, but then when it's time to cultivate or winterize, we can just pull the top plate off, pull the stake out, and it's done. So let's get to it. So I'm using 1-inch rebar, 5-foot length of it, because when I go to put it in the ground, I would like the post to be at least almost 4 feet out of the ground, but I want to be able to whale on this thing with a sledge to pound it in our rocky ground without the top mushrooming out, because the pipe that I'm going to use needs to fit nicely over it, and if that rebar gets mushroomed out, the pipe won't fit it on anymore. This pipe will be the base for the plate that will hold the sprinkler. All right, everybody, here's what I've come up with so far. It's a pretty heavy-duty aluminum plate with some aluminum pipe. This is 1.5 inches, and it fits over with a little bit of slop. This pipe will get mounted to this plate. So this will mount similar to that, so it can swivel back and forth. It'll be in the pathway for one use and can just swing it out of the path. So another requirement that I didn't mention when I was talking outside was that I want it to be rust proof. I realize that aluminum is not corrosion proof. However, it certainly won't rust like steel, and I don't want to have to deal with painting these things and stripping them and cleaning them all the time. So that's why I'm building it out of aluminum. Looks like it'll work. I like this power arm fixture. Man, that's fantastic. All right, well, here we go. This is what the finished product looks like. I still have to drill and tap my holes. And I'm glad I did have to wait overnight, because I thought about it and I was like, instead of just drilling and tapping this aluminum, let's drill it, tap it, and put a helicoil in there. So I pulled out some 1/4x20 helicoils. Now these are supposedly stainless. So I put a 1/4x20 helicoil in this built up section here of aluminum. And then that way my 1/4x20 stainless screws shouldn't fuse to the aluminum. Theoretically, my goal was to make it basically weatherproof. So then I did have where these sank through. So I let it get a little bit hot, and the aluminum just sank right through. So I had to spend about an hour. Let's see if we can actually see this. I had to spend about an hour between the two of these sanding down or filing down that spot right there that you see. It was sticking out at least a 1/4 inch into the center of that tube right in there. So got that taken care of on both of them. There's 2 on one of them and 1 on the other. And this is what it looks like. So it'll sit on here. Those 2 set screws will go in right here and keep it level. That's why I went with 2 instead of just 1. So 2 of them will keep this thing pressed up nice and solid so that it stays perpendicular to the ground, or parallel to the ground, sorry. And swivel it one way, tighten my screws, loosen the screws. I can swivel it out of the walk path, back, tighten it back down. It should stay there and be level. So that's where we're at. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with this upper plate. I built up on both plates a little spot here and up here, where I'm gonna do the same thing, drill and tap 1/4-20. And then on the sprinklers, I'll just drill a 1/4 inch hole through it and set the screws through there. Now the other thing I'm looking at, I couldn't find any 1/4x20 stainless wing bolts. You know, there's such thing as a wing nut. So I took some stainless, come on, focus. I took some stainless washers, folded them in half, pounded them flat, and then I'm going to weld them onto the end of a nut. That way I have wing nut, or wing bolts basically. And also one other thing to think about, where I'm gonna weld these on. Come on, focus. Sure, if I line that up point to point, I'll have a flat open on each side. Whereas if I line it up that way, it'll be points on each side versus, so if I do need to get a wrench on it for whatever reason, the position of this will be important. All right, so these holes don't have to be perfectly perpendicular just because of the application, but I figure I might as well get them as straight as possible. Can't hurt, right? I really need to make myself a drill block. All right, now we can go ahead and get our tap and give one of these helicoils a try. All right, so I take my insert, throw a dab of thread locker on it, just a little dab like that, then throw a dab on the inside here. Run it down till that top thread is just below the surface, just like that. And we've got a thread, or a tang break-off tool, if you've never used one of these. So this is your helicoil install tool, and there's a little tang on the bottom end, and that's how you drive it in. And because it's like a spring, as you're spinning it in, it keeps loosening the spring until it's all the way in. Once it's seated, you still have that little tang there in the bottom. So you take your tang punch tool, throw it in there, give it a good pop with your hand, and it'll bust that tang right off. Bust our tangs off. Like so. Oh, there we go, homemade stainless wing bolts. Some of them definitely turned out better than others, but overall, I think they're gonna work just fine. All right, so we got our 1-inch rebar stake. Here's our unit completed. Our wing bolts, custom made. Tighten it down. That'll keep it from moving. Then when you want to twist it out of the way, loosen up your wing bolts. Swing the sprinkler out of the path. When you're done, you can swing it back, tighten it back down. And then for the sprinkler itself, I'll sit here. Hopefully these holes all line up. Look at that. These don't need to be tight. They're just on there to keep the sprinkler from flying around. Now it ain't going nowhere. Tightened up. Voila! Sprinkler stand. Cool. All right, everybody. So here's the final product. All the hoses are out of the way. I'm not tripping over them. I got them raised up off the ground so I don't hit them on the outside with a weed whacker. Right now it's obviously in the way, but it's plenty high enough. It's not gonna get obstructed by plants growing up and over it. When you wanna go up and down the path, you just simply loosen your wing bolts, swing it out of the way, not tripping on anything, not stepping on anything. Super easy. I mean, it was a little bit of a job to make it, but man, I'm so glad I took the time to do this. Tighten her back up. 2 wing bolts, everything's hand tightened, so you don't have to get any wrenches or tools. And you can see by the drone footage, it's covering everything perfectly. I've already tested out both of them, and we'll adjust the in and out. So with these particular kind, you can actually adjust the nozzles, the spray pattern in and out. So that's why we got these ones. You rock this guy here, and it actually changes the angle of those. So I'll put the link in the description for this particular one, which I don't even know if they sell it. We bought them last summer, and I checked on it earlier, but either way, it'll be there. So another thing here, I went and I got my hoses hung up on the fence there. Every time I mow the yard, I got to wind up this whole wad here. So right here where the yellow hose goes to the splitter, I've got a quick disconnect. So when I mow, there's always just this big pile. So now I can just wind them up real quick and drop them on one of them hooks. And then the other one I can just drag out of the way. Like I said, over here, I've got all these, the 2 hoses hung on S-hooks on the fencing. Heck yeah, about time. Talk about making life a little bit easier. Well, that's it for this video, everybody. I appreciate y'all stopping by. If this helped or you like this kind of stuff, please hit that like and subscribe. And always remember, keep yanking on them bootstraps.